Okay, we're starting. Hey, we're starting. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. You can use this then. Okay. Give me back the microphone. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Steve Wilson. I'm the pastor here, and we are an intentionally welcome and opening community to those. We're tolerant, and we're oh, my stole is falling apart here. We're a fashion disaster, and we're lots of things. Thank you. Appreciate the support. So a couple announcements before we get started. We're going to have a blood drive here on the 28th. We were having them once a month. We're having them every other month, but it's a great chance to do a civic thing and share your blood. There's an old statement, you know, whenever you're doing anything, you should give 100% unless you're giving blood. This week, the seniors meet at 2 on Tuesday, senior covenant group, and there's also pizza on Thursday, which always happens at noon. We have a Christmas Eve service at 5 o'clock. What time's the Christmas Eve service?
5 o'clock.
Thank you. There we go. Probably the office will be closed during the Christmas week, or at least largely closed. But we are having a service on the 26th, so it's Christmas Eve on what night? Friday night. At what time? 5 o'clock. And then a Sunday service at 10:30. We're moving closer. We're going to be supporting Afghan refugees in a couple different ways, it seems. That'll probably sort itself out in more detail, but very soon up on the website will be this list called Miri's List, and that's a way to kind of think bridal register, but think bridal register for a family of recent refugees who need sheets and pillows and all the things you need to start a life. So that's happening. We dropped off the gifts people donated to Rainbow Services. Ben and I were down there. We ran into each other there. Let's see. We're having a district meeting in February. You might think about that. It's in San Diego. It'd be interesting if you want to be more involved with UUs and meet UUs from all over the Pacific region, the Western region. Please do that. Let's see. The book group for January is called CIRC. It's kind of this mythical Greek thing. Robin Earhart is the leader of that. I know Barbara has that book in her presence at the moment, and you can see her if you want to take a peek at what the book looks like. What else? Let's see. I think that's it. Oh, new member Sunday. That's right. Sorry. The most important thing and the most pressing thing is that we're having anyone who's interested in becoming a member or interested in just hearing a little bit about UU history and about the church's history, we're going to meet out at the picnic tables out there, and we're doing what we do about 4 times a year. We're doing a new member Sunday for anyone who wants to consider. There's no blood drawn today or sheep sacrificed or anything. We're just meeting to talk about membership here. That's next week at the church. So we also acknowledge that this beautiful spot we now inhabit and in the Western sense own is Tongva land, and where there were people here long before we have it, even though we take great pride in this space. We, you could argue about how we Westerners got that land, but that's another story for another sermon for another day. So I invite up Marie to read our chalice words, and I will light our chalice.
This is Waiting, adapted from David Breenden. We will light the chalice this holiday season, this time that involves so much waiting, to remind ourselves to enjoy the moment, the now of our lives. Yes, much is coming, and always we wait, but those things to come will also be now when they come.
Speaking of participating in the moment of the day, what did Adam say on the day before Christmas? It's nearly Christmas Eve. I know, it's awful. We've now reached that one special time in the year when you're not thought crazy when you tell your friends that you're preparing in less than a week to sit in your living room in front of a dying tree that you've propped up and looking forward to fish for treats at the bottom of your socks. How's that for an image to welcome you to the Christmas season? This is the season where we had designed to prepare sort of a manger in our hearts for the kind of glories of a season of light. Cultivate a small little place in your heart, to nurture the infancy of new light, right? All these metaphors come up. The miracle infant baby that reset the world's calendars is born here. Solstices of old. There isn't a time in the season where there's more sort of celebrations around the world than this time of year, at least particularly in the northern hemisphere. So my goal is to sort of try to give you some sense. It's the minister's job to sort of help you get prepared for Christmas, right? It's almost in the job description. The spirit of the Grinch is going to be the spirit of today. And I'm not in the spirit of the Grinch, I'd like to say by saying that Christmas is not likely going to save you, permanently at least. It's not going to change your outlook on the world permanently, most likely. So I want you to set the bar pretty low on what Christmas can do. So just sit back, relax, enjoy the hymns, enjoy the twinkly lights. A couple years ago, probably where this hat comes from, and if anybody wants to come up and see some of the faces of the youth that have been in this church over the last 10 years or so, Kim has pulled together some great pictures added to existing pictures that we dug out of closets as we prepared for Jewel, who we'll meet in just a second. I want you to in your life, embody that deep set of magic that Christmas testifies to, but only in a small way, right? There's going to be enough warm thoughts. There's going to be enough good stuff to let your heart expand like the Grinch does. And in classic Christmas theme, let's begin our Christmas with a hymn. We would all sing along if we could hit those notes, but we can't. You set the bar
It's
too
okay.
high.
It's a rough hymn. It's rough.
Yeah. I'd like to invite our children down for our children's moment. Anyone comes down will be great. Okay. So why don't you come down? I'm going to invite Jewel up to the pulpit. We have a special, not a guest by any means anymore. Jewel is our new MOAD, which is our Multicultural Outreach Education Director. And Jewel has this amazing repertoire of activism meets public relations meets, I don't know. It's an impressive resume of activity that anyone would be proud of. And we greet Jewel, and she's going to say a few words.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, thank you all. My parents named me Jewel Penina Taimane, which is in Samoan, jewel in English, and in Samoan, Penina is a jewel, and Taimane is a diamond. So their intention for me, I believe, was to be valuable in this world. And they used to also say, o iwi o tato, matua I tawa, I ole pe'e I le, lene tama, which means, in this child, the bones of the ancestors live. And so I take that charge very, very seriously. And as Steve mentioned, I've done a lot of extraordinary work all throughout the world, but what I know is that no matter what field you play on, the game is the same. And I thought a lot about what I wanted my next work to look like and feel like. And I found that this isn't just a church, but it's a room full of people whose values very much align with mine, and who don't just care about justice and peace as a passive idea. You guys show up for it. And it's totally a privilege and an honor to represent that growth and development in this next stage of Pacific Unitarian history. So thank you so much for your faith in me. I really want to thank Vivian for writing the grant and kind of spearheading the discussions that led me to this place. During the George Floyd situation and all through the pandemic, watching some of the things that were going on in our country, I just thought, this is the area of service I really want to be in. This is a place to really move the needle at this time in history. And I felt like the discussions that were happening here in this community were just so powerful and important. And she was the one who kind of visioned my entire position and brought the team together. So I really want to thank the transformation team. They've just been incredible and just so special, the loveliest people. The board has been really wonderful to me. I just have to thank Kimberly for just all that she has done. She's been my main contact person that's guided me through this process. And if anybody's ever seen the religious education office before, it was kind of a storage room. And she's been pouring so much love into that space and really planning what we're gonna do with that. And so I take her service and her heart for this place and for RE as just such a gift. And I just want to do as well as I can with all the love that's being poured out for me. And I also want to send some love to Gary and Leanne, who aren't here today, who are really instrumental in the hiring process with me, and they're just really lovely people. So I hope to, I just want to send them a little bit of love and hold space in my heart that we'll be sharing good news with them soon. And I know this is long, Steve, and I'm gonna hurry up, but I also really want to thank my friend, my childhood friend, Sharon Holtz Dempster, and her family, and she was really instrumental in kind of me getting to know you guys before I could be here to meet you guys. So I learned a lot about the dynamics of this community and through her experiences, and I just really appreciate her insight. And so, lastly, my Angela used to say, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And there's an entire army of people that I really want to thank, my beautiful family and friends who have stood with me, and they're just so invested in my wellness and me getting to do this beautiful work here. And so I'm excited to send this YouTube video. So as a response to the question, did you get it yet? Are you there yet? What's happening? So I will be doing that this week, and it feels really great to be in a space where we're making progress, and I can celebrate that with my friends and family and with you guys and get to know you all. So I very much want to send the light that is in this space as we shine it out into the world. The light is made up of all of you, so I look forward to connecting with all of you, learning about the things that you want to work on, and putting those plans in motion. So feel free to stop by in the weeks ahead in our office that Kimberly decorated so beautifully, and stop by our space, and you can always reach out to me at moed, M-O-E-D, at pacificunitarian.org. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you. I wrote a piece in the newsletter you'll see in a week or so, and Jewel is just, like, her history is different. Like, she's just takes, there's initiative. She's started radio stations, right? Got local radio stations started. She was instrumental in the people of the Papua population fighting for independence from Indonesia with a massive 1.8 million signature campaign that was delivered to the United Nations. Like, just a go-getter, and sort of someone who acts, who sees a problem and acts on it. And I'm inspired by her, and I think she'll help pull us maybe a little bit out of our comfort and out into the world a little more, and bring a little bit of the world in here. And I think that's the goal, and to learn. And there you go. I'm going to get all choked up. And she was incredibly patient with us while we were just dawdling along. Should have hired her months ago. All right. So there is a classic story. It's called The Gift of the Magi. You guys know the story at all? It's a cool little story. It's a classic flip. It's tragic in its way. It's sort of a Greek tragedy. People are sort of familiar with it. Kelly's going to show us some images up there, and I'm going to disturb her by probably going out of order, which is kind of what I do. That's how we work. She painstakingly asks me questions, and then I just improv and drive her crazy. So in this story, yeah, I know, I drive everybody crazy. So in this story, there's this couple. They're a young couple, and they're living in the city. This woman has beautiful long blonde hair. They're your classic, like, early married 20s types, right? But they're broke, like many people who are young lovers, and they want to get something special for each other. I think it's their first Christmas, right? But neither of them have any money. So she's like, it's Christmas Day, and she is like, what am I gonna get? She's got $1.87. She's like, gah. She's looking at her coins. Thank you. Many other kids would have stolen that. So she didn't have enough money. And then she strolls down into town, and she goes to this hairdresser, like a kind of a posh hairdresser, and she sells her beautiful hair because she wants to get her husband something for Christmas, right? He's got this watch, pocket watch, which I am using as my alarm clock on my desk as a pocket watch. The budget was spent on the Moad. Here, hold that. All right. And he's got this watch, and she buys him this. This is what Jose gave me at the last minute as a prop. She buys this beautiful watch chain for him. Gorgeous, isn't it? It's lovely. Yeah. It's gold. Just think of it as platinum. That's why it's silver. That's why it's that color. And so she sells her hair, which, she's got this beautiful long hair like Naomi has, and she decides to sell it for her love to buy him this chain. But what has he done? Anybody know the story?
I don't remember.
He sells the watch to buy her what? A fancy set of combs and a mirror. Oh yeah, it's awful. It's awful. But it's awful because it's also what? Hey, it's beautiful, isn't it? Because in a way, that would be such an amazing Christmas gift to get, right? If your partner in life sells one of the most precious things they have to give you a gift, even if it turns out to be useless until her hair grows, you see what the other person would do for you, right? That's really the act. And that is the greatest gift. And, there's Christmas messages, and essentially, as we all know, the greatest gifts have no material value, don't they, right? They really don't. They don't exist. The real gifts of Christmas are invisible, and they live in our hearts, and they call us to be more, and they call us to be more loving. How's that? All right, let's sing out the kids with our Singing Out Our Kids song. Go now in peace. Please join in. Thank you.
Go now in peace, go now in peace.
Capitalism.
Capitalism.
Everywhere you may go.
Our centering hymn is number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. Calls us all to our hypocrisy.
Though I may speak with bravest fire and have the gift to all inspire and have not love, my words are vain as sounding brass and hopeless gain. Though I may give all I possess in striving so, thy love professed, but not be given by love within, the prophet soon turn strangely thin. Come, Spirit, come, our hearts control, our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are free.
Oh. That might be my favorite hymn. I love that. There's an interesting sort of, that idea of love over deeds is very Pauline in its theology. It's the words that the hymn are drawn from comes from the words of Paul, it's like Corinthians. And there was a great debate in the early Christian church about whether you mostly needed faith or you mostly needed to express faith in your lifestyle and how you lived. And Paul was very much about assertions of faith, and some of the Christian community in Jerusalem, led by James, were very much about having to act on it and had some connections to the Jewish laws. So there's a little tension in that hymn that you don't know about, but it's just kind of cool, right? And we're all drawn to be loving and faithful and sort of pure of heart, and then we're also called to act on that. And obviously, they go best when they're together. So I'm going to run around and hear joys and concerns, and Marie is going to light our candles as we go. I want to share the first one, and that is that Kelly, don't ever feel like you're not having an influence around here. Dana Fowle reads this poem called Light Bearers. We are light bearers, stewards of a truth that insists on being shared despite doubt or fear or imagined limitation. We spread the flame by teaching or by growing still, by daring to be outrageous and dancing beneath the full moon, or by holding a friend in need and in taking part in life's normal routines. It's like the poem speaking to all our caregivers. This is our message. There is hope encoded in each cell, each loving thought, each time we reach out to one another. There's truth that won't be stopped by toppling buildings, snipers, bullets, war clouds on the horizon, or the inner storms of grief, despair, or insecurity. We are the peace we've been seeking, the peace that stretches beyond the mind's needs for form or understanding, the peace for which each human heart longs. Now is the light time for the light bearers to offer up the truth of who and what we really are. Take to the silence your own commitment to be a bearer of that light. Marie is going to lead us in our responsive reading, which will be up on the screen. It's on the back of your bulletin as well.
Thanks for that cue, Steve.
You were in meditative
I
bliss
was.
over there.
I've actually been meditating. So I'm going to talk, and then you guys are going to say, "It is Christmas." When we offer a glass of water to a thirsty person, when we clothe a naked person with a gown of love,
It is Christmas.
when we wipe the tears from weeping eyes, when the spirit of revenge dies in me, when in my heart I no longer want to stay apart, it is Christmas.
Pretty simple, right? I think I said earlier, it's pretty sure it's in the contract of ministers that they're able to provide some insight on how we should all manage Christmas. And if I were to take on that task, which I guess I am earnestly, we all know that the force with which the voices urge us to gladdings of comfort and joy can feel sometimes more like pressure than enlightening, sometimes more tacky than sparkly. I think we feel that way. Sometimes we don't feel the twinkly lights. I don't. I've been through this a few times. You have too. So today's message does champion Christmas, but sort of not immediately. I want to enter Christmas the way the Grinch does, spiritually from the cellar, not the chimney. See, this year I find myself wanting to write a brave Christmas message that honored the existentialist in all of us. The us that, despite the eggnog and good cheer, carries soulful mental aches and pains that we just heard about. Broken pelvises and pains that don't go away just because the lights go up. Maybe a few of the pains flare up with the binding brightness of the holiday even more. That's true for very many people. There are a lot of popular Christmas themes available, and I'm here to trust that you're familiar with the important moral act of remembering that the real gifts of the season are not measured by their price tag. Do you know that? Yeah, you know that. And I believe that you're aware that it's a good drama to place the miracles of the season in the bleakest and unlikeliest of places, right? The lights are at the darkest time of the year. As additional evidence, I cite the infant Jesus and his soon-to-be famous family starting in a backwater manger, or a grumpy Scrooge finding his heart, or the famous story of the courageous underdog, faithful Maccabees, or the most modern one of those, the Grinch. Got an image of the Grinch up there. There we go. Look at him in all his glory. I love the Grinch, and being raised in Boston, we kind of have a little nasty, comical, mean streak. I grew up on construction sites and have become a person who likes the Grinch, likes to start a little bitter and skeptical with almost everything I engage with, and then let the natural warmth and compassion of the moment and the love that lives in my heart kind of warm me up. For a short while, when I was in late junior high, there was this nasty but also really funny but also nasty pattern that I never participated in, either on the receiving end or the giving end, but I was in the middle of those who did. And it was a pattern where my friends would sneak into each other's houses and they would open up their friends' presents under the tree. Everything with their name on it got opened and just left there, essentially ruining the surprise contained in Christmas. We called it being Grinched. I did not do this. I was too good a kid, but I did enjoy that it was done. It had a joyfulness to it that's hard to put your finger on. It really did. It was sort of like hazing. It was saying you're one of us. Everyone has an inner Grinch, right? We all have an inner Grinch. Let's let him out to play a little bit so that he doesn't weigh down the entire holiday. Listening to your own inner Grinch, for me, is about lifting up for viewing the shadowy part of you that roots for the tragic. That part of you that sort of plans on how to spoil Santa's big day way up in your malicious little emotional hideaway. Honoring it, bringing it into the light so that it doesn't completely take over. Because if you don't honor your shadow, it'll take over. I think that what the Grinch never fully articulates is a pretty rich message to kind of absorb. Or else you'll hate the sermon. I don't know, one of the two. This is of the same spirit of the hard work of being able to look at yourself in the spiritual mirror and say, wow, I'm a racist. At least a little bit. And we've been calling ourselves to that kind of reflection. I suppose reflecting on it is that idea of unpacking the hard part of yourself that you'd rather not look at, that unconscious sort of contrarian inside of you. I imagine the Grinch sitting up on the mountain perch, frustrated by the quaintly decorated village below. And I think we learn from the Grinch that sometimes, that when you wrap bright paper and pretty lights around things, you provide almost a perfect environment for that sinister side of ourselves to grow if you don't kind of warm yourself up. Do you know what I'm getting at? If you don't sort of allow yourself to be a little bit bitter and then be warmed up, you can just sort of remain cynical with all the sort of bright polish the holiday is supposed to have. Our inner Grinch knows that for fear of spoiling the party, you're not supposed to say the things when you get closer and closer to Christmas. The inner Grinch sort of gives us our radar for the phony, a compass for, dare I say, our integrity of when we're really moved by the holiday. If you don't believe that the Grinch is an important spiritual sage this time of year, do a Google search under anti-Christmas, and you will find a lot of people who disagree. Our inner Grinch is the shadow of the chuckle, if not the joy we experience in watching Seinfeld's Festivus celebration, the celebration of aired grievances. And it is the side that roots for the Grinch that feels like it speaks a little truth. Our inner Grinch is well versed and tuned into how many parasites that grow in and steal the sacred heart of the holiday for commercial purposes, right? Our Grinch can see that clearly. Our inner Grinch can clearly see how advertisements for Christmas blowout sales, as David Lohr, UU minister, says, lives like a hobo on the spirit of the season. Can I get an amen to that? I hope so. Our inner Grinch knows that there's an unsaid price for getting your hopes up too high, too. Feeling a little Grinchy? I hope so. Few of us make it to adulthood without our childhood eagerness and joyful anticipation for Christmas remained intact, right? Sometimes we forget that it's almost inevitable and that life brings us 1,001 good reasons to be a little wary of the holiday of lights and infant babies. Even if we never admit it to ourselves, our inner Grinch secretly knows these things. So where are you taking this, preacher, you might ask? I'm simply saying that the truth is you're less likely, for example, to be a racist if you unveil for your full self in an undefended kind of way. And I think the holiday is like that too. If you don't defend yourself from a little cynicism by getting it up on the surface, you can remain kind of grouchy all the way through the holiday season. I think that our frustrated, obsessed green friend hidden up there in the craggy outlook makes a simple mistake. He asks too much of Christmas. Maybe what brings us down about the holidays and the seasons of light that all huddle around this time of year is rooted in the request that they be transformative, when their real purpose is to just talk about the infancy of change that can be there for you. Christmas is like a spark. It's a little bit of lights in a dark sky. We should remember that the Jesus that so often courageously steps out of convention to heal the lepers and dignify the prostitutes and bring hope to the poor is at Christmas just a little ball of potency, isn't he? Not yet fulfilling his destiny. If Christmas is about Jesus, and to a degree it is, not completely, but to a degree, all we really celebrate at this time of year is the infancy of what could be in all of us. Might what shrinks the Grinch's heart is that he gets cynical, that there's all this fanfare about something that too often ends up just being wrapping paper on the floor or in a trash can, and us thinking in some small way that we're glad the pretense of goodwill is over. What feels in need of saying on this precursor to Christmas and even closer to the solstice is that the sun will return and the cold nights will come, but spring is still a ways away. I'm a preacher, so given the history of the craft, it is my right and privilege to lie to you. And I guess having arrived here, you're not asked to do nothing, as I said early on, just to enjoy a little bit of the lights. You're asked to do this one thing. What in the end of the Seussian parable of the Grinch really tells us is that the season is the heart is just pulled to stretch a little bit bigger. And that can hurt. So here's the calisthenic for that spirit. What possibly great spiritual thing that is in its infancy in your mind and heart could grow out of today and become worth marking a calendar for, like Jesus' life turned out to be? What? What needs growth inside of you? See, if the sun never gets stronger than it is this time of year, they would have never bothered to mark the solstice, right? The solstice is the turn. It's not the end. It's not June. It's just the start. And had Jesus not grown up into be that heroic contrarian figure that challenged the mundane, we wouldn't be marking this time of year as his birth either. If we don't understand that these holidays, this night or this day, this time, is about the birth of what is new and good, but its infancy, not some standing up adult version of that, then the Grinch will remain the best and truest expression of the season. A promise, a glitter that has no substance. So don't ask Christmas this year to do more than it should do. If you do, you'll kind of get stuck in its disappointment. Digest the sort of beauty of this space and the little bit of decorations we have and the idea of being here in communion to get today. There's some images here that just are designed to give us a little bit of that warm grace. They're just going to appear above my head. Yeah. Just kind of cool, right? Yeah. Christmas can and it should be a great gift. It can also point out the work we as a culture, we as a people have done and not done to deserve the holiday. It's personal homework to enter the holiday season and see in what ways you're going to grow from your little infant ball of potency. Christmas without the purging work of winter and Lent, not too far ahead in the Christian calendar, stands alone with too big a promise on its shoulders. Christmas can't really get you to spring in a spiritual sense. It's a spark with the work ahead of you. Christmas really is a muse to lure us away from the low and trivial souls in which our soul finds too little rest. Christmas isn't the end of the year final reward, it's the first step of the new year in a way. And as we enter the Christmas season, let us not only be able to differentiate between the glitter and the gold, but remember, even if there's a lot of glitter, doesn't mean there's not at least a little bit of gold in this holiday. Find that gold for you. Amen. Marie's going to read us a reading. Karen Miracle likes it when we follow the sermon with a reading, so I throw her a bone every once in a while. Come on up.
That was really good. Thank you. Wasn't that awesome? Yeah, permission to be a little Grinchy, right? This is called, be still, Beneath the Tinsel. Author unknown. I wonder who that is. We have come here seeking Christmas, searching outside ourselves for what can be found only within. We will not find Christmas here unless we have brought it with us. Christmas is a season of the Spirit, a habit of the heart, not reserved for designated days in December, but available all days, all year, lighting our way through darkness and dullness of the winters of our souls. To the Bethlehem that dwells in each one of us, there is a star that shines in spite of ourselves and the absurdities and the ironies of our existence. We need to be reminded now and then of the star's abiding presence and persistence in each one of us. Winter solstice serves such a purpose. The star that has led us here on this holy day where all is calm, all is bright, here we pause, if only for a moment, in the midst of the holiday madness, to listen for the angel voices that sound softly inside each of us, proclaiming the truth of Christmas that lies beneath all the tinsel and glitter of getting and spending, the ho-ho-hos that quickly become, for many of us, bah humbugs. As we pause here on this winter's day, let us listen quietly to those whispers of Christmas truth, of the gifts of Christmas that cannot be got or bought or sold, but can only be freely received and gladly given, shared with ourselves and others. Welcome to the real Christmas season, and may it begin today.
Nice job. That's pretty. All right, we sort of went a little bit out of order, so I'm going to sneak my joke in, and then we're going to have the passing of the plates. Didn't want to interrupt the nice reading and then the beautiful spot, so now I will. So there's a new minister, and he's standing at the edge of the door, and cup first week or so at church, and people come through and they say, "Nice sermon, pastor," but there's this one person, he keeps walking into the line and getting in line, and the first time he comes up, he says, "That was a very dull and boring sermon, pastor." And a few other people come through and shake the pastor's hand and sees that guy again, and "You really blew it. You really didn't have anything to say to us today." And then he gets back in the line, and other people say nice things. He comes up one more time. "That was terrible," he says. And the pastor asks one of the leading figures of the church, "What's going on with this guy?" He goes, "Oh, don't pay him any mind. He just repeats things he says, hears other people saying. Don't pay him any attention." Give generously for the life and work of this church. And while you're digging for your goodies for the church, we'll do the affirmation of gratitude here. Why not? You ready? Here we go. Let us be grateful for all we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us also be grateful even for our needs, so we may experience the generosity of others. There we go. And now our closing hymn.
Here we go. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a-breaking in my soul. Oh, where are our dear mothers? Oh, where are dear mothers? Oh, where are our dear mothers? Day is a-breaking in my soul. They are sowing seeds of gladness. They are sowing seeds of gladness. They are sowing seeds of gladness. Day is a-breaking in my soul.
This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be. And now our service truly begins. Wow. Thank you. Oh, wait a minute, they're just talking. We don't need to pay attention to that. For those who know Virginia Schwartz, her memorial will be on the 28th. It's Tuesday down towards San Diego. So Barbara Paulson probably has more details about that than anybody. And, you know, for those who want to remember Virginia, that's when that's happening. Thanks to the choir. Can't wait to have you guys back inside. When is that going to happen? I don't know. No. Anyway, thank you for being here. And what time is the Christmas Eve service? Friday night. No. Stop. No. That's right, exactly.